Years ago, the renowned Red Ribbon Army, under the leadership of Commander Red, plotted world domination. However, they were wiped away by a boy whose name was Son Goku. At the time, a brilliant scientist, Dr. Gero, who was developing special weapons called androids, managed to survive. Meanwhile, Commander Red's orphaned son Magenta carried on his father's will. Using the enormous funds from his front company, Red Pharmaceuticals, Magenta quietly awaited the army's revival. As time passed, Dr. Gero carried on developing his androids in secret and even converted himself into an android, yet he was once again defeated by Goku and his allies and finally eliminated by his own creation, Android 17. Soon afterward, Goku and his allies faced off against Cell, the ultimate living weapon of Dr. Gero, and finally managed to defeat him after a difficult battle. Although Magenta nearly gave up on the Red Ribbon Army's revival after numerous setbacks, he was fortunate enough to discover Dr. Gero's even more brilliant grandson, Dr. Hedo. Thanks to Hedo's genius, Magenta's burning desire for revenge blazed forth once more. Arriving at the Red Pharmaceuticals, Carmine, the assistant staff officer to Magenta, finds Magenta going through pictures of Hedo, who's Dr. Gero's genius grandson, but doesn't look so much like a genius. Skeptical, Magenta asks Carmine if Hedo is a professor or a medical doctor. Confirming the facts, Carmine shows Magenta videos of Hedo, while telling him that Hedo's father was the younger son of Dr. Gero's late wife, but Hedo had unfortunately lost his parents in an accident and lived alone on his inheritance. Carmine adds that he obtained a doctorate at 14, and though Hedo's eccentric personality prevented him from cutting in any laboratories, Hedo spent the rest of his inheritance to continue his research on his own, to which Magenta looks very pleased. Carmine declares he'll get Hedo in 3 months, adding that he's currently serving time in prison for stealing 3 corpses from a morgue and turning them into simplistic androids to earn money by having them work at a convenience store. Reluctant, Magenta wonders if Hedo is really a genius. Acknowledging that Hedo shares Dr. Gero's talent for android technology, Magenta concludes that they need his skills to revive the Red Ribbon Army. At Prison 8, Hedo, who is a 24-year-old evil genius, is finally freed. While leaving, the inmates call him names and hurl cans at him. Upset, Hedo throws a bomb in. Just as he walks away, the bomb goes off, to his smug satisfaction. Just then, Magenta shows up and tells Hedo he's been waiting for him. Hedo, nonchalant, assures Magenta that he already knows who he is, as the president of Red Pharmaceuticals. Puzzled, Magenta asks him how he got to know him before he introduced himself. Boldly, Hedo tells Carmine that he was aware of his presence as he watched him in the prison exercise yard, and he thought it suspicious and had therefore trailed him using his cyborg bee, who followed him into Magenta's office and watched him make a report on him. Magenta looks astonished. However, he asks Hedo if he knows the reason they've been looking for him. Unimpressed, Hedo assures him he heard a bit of their conversation, with Magenta mentioning the Red Ribbon Army. Surprised yet a bit disappointed, Magenta offers to give Hedo a ride home, and immediately shows Hedo his favorite drink. Tempted, Hedo begins to salivate. Obviously can't turn it down. While driving off, Magenta asks Hedo about his time in prison, and if the other inmates tried to pick on him. Admittedly, Hedo confirms they did try. However, when he began to eliminate them one by one, the others stayed away from him. Humored by the memory of it, Hedo laughs. Magenta uncomfortably stutters. Desperate to change the conversation, he compliments Hedo for having a brilliant grandfather, but Hedo is unmoved, saying he never met Dr. Gero. Determined to get his point across, Magenta compliments Hedo for sharing the same enthusiasm for android research as his grandfather. Magenta admits it was a major setback losing Dr. Gero, but Hedo smartly understands his point. He admits knowing Magenta wants him as a replacement for his late grandfather. Magenta, excited by the prospect, promises to provide Hedo with all the research funds and equipment he desires, and promises to pay him 300 million for every android made. Looking doubtful, Hedo says his parents hated his grandfather because he was influenced to work for the Red Ribbon Army, and seeing Red Pharmaceuticals as a front for the Red Ribbon Army, choosing to work for them could be seen as going against the desires of his parents. Further, he confesses being a fan of superheroes, and seeing the Red Ribbon Army are after world domination, he thinks that makes them enemies of superheroes. Determined to convince Hedo, Magenta says his goal is to purge the world of dangerous individuals and create a peaceful world. With Hedo still hesitant, Magenta gets more desperate and promises to pay him 1 billion for every android. Impatient, Carmine threatens Hedo with a gun, but Hedo calmly tells him his skin has been injected with a special drug that makes him impervious to attacks, while threatening to sting Carmine with his cyborg bee. Alarmed, Carmine tries to attack the cyborg bee, but loses control of the car. Finally agreeing to work with Magenta, Hedo wonders who he considers his greatest enemy. Happily, Magenta says Goku and his allies, since they defeated Cell. He explains that they're a fearsome secret society whose leader is Bulma of Capsule Corporation. When Hito is unwilling to believe, Magenta assures him he has seen evidence of flying humanoids going in and out of Capsule Corporation headquarters. He believes they're aliens who are helping with the use of alien technology, adding that these aliens are intending to overtake Earth by using Capsule Corporation as a cover. When Hito remains skeptical, Magenta shows him a video of supposed aliens fighting each other over the right to claim Earth as their territory. Confused, Hito wonders why Bulma hasn't taken over Earth already, utilizing the power of the aliens, but Magenta suggests they're intending to make Earthlings a labor force, before calling on their counterparts. Magenta assures Hito that his grandfather knew of this and had created Cell to fight back against Capsule Corporation and their plot to hoard the world's wealth for themselves, but had sadly passed away during the encounter, with the other created androids joining with the enemy. Seeing the determination in Hito's eyes, Magenta asks him if he can create androids strong enough to defeat the enemy. Snobbish, Hito calls it a dumb question, as he now has a goal to build the most powerful androids in the universe. Pan, Goku's granddaughter, and Piccolo train. After their training, Pan insists on learning to fire ki blasts with her hands. However, Piccolo tells her it's not yet the time. Deciding to make the effort anyway, Pan concentrates her energy. Just as it seems she's about to do it, she gives up, discouraged. Cheering her, Piccolo says she has Saiyan blood and will master it in no time, before commanding her to head home. Later, while meditating, Piccolo is distracted by his ringing phone. As he answers it, Videl asks if he picks Pan up from kindergarten, as the martial arts class she teaches has a tournament and will keep her late. Piccolo is anxious and reluctant. He asks about Gohan, Pan's father. When she tells him he's busy writing his next research report and hasn't left his room in days, Piccolo frowns in annoyance. Moody, Piccolo flies over to Gohan and interrupts him while working. Gohan explains to him that he's writing a report on ants, as a while ago an amazing type of ant was discovered on a southern island. He says when in danger, the ant gives off a faint glow and transforms. Impatient, Piccolo demands to know why he can't pick up his daughter from school, but Gohan merely stutters. Taking a breath, Piccolo decides to ask why Gohan has stopped training, convinced a battle could break out at any moment, although Gohan doesn't believe so. Abruptly, Piccolo punches him in the gut and finally agrees to pick up Pan. Back to meditating, Piccolo is attacked by a Red Ribbon android called Gamma 2. After brushing off the attack, Piccolo tells him the Red Ribbon army was wiped out years ago. Dr. Gero tried to hang for a while, but his plans all failed in the end, including his greatest creation, Cell. He wonders who could be responsible for the emergence of Gamma 2. Realizing Piccolo knows too much, Gamma 2 attacks him again, determined to eliminate him and keep the Red Ribbon's secret safe. After the fight, Piccolo stealthily trails Gamma 2 as he returns to Red Ribbon's army base. Getting to the base, Piccolo disguises as an army and infiltrates it. While trailing Gamma 2, Piccolo walks into a meeting with Hito and Magenta. Hito proudly compliments Gamma 2 for his battle with Piccolo, bragging that he watched it through his eyes. Gamma 1 asks if Gamma 2 saw his body after the explosion, but Gamma 2, confused, says there was no need, assured Piccolo could not have survived the explosion. Gamma 1 shows Gamma 2 an image showing Piccolo taking off from the scene. Gamma 1 believes Piccolo must have alerted his friends and allies about their existence. Gamma 2 boastfully says they can't find the army base, however, if they did, they'd beat up the entire organization. Suddenly, Carmine plays a video of Son Goku and Vegeta, calling them formidable foes who are being controlled by Majin Buu and Mr. Satan. Interrupting, Hito says they're not to be worried about, as he brags about Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 being enough to stop them all, calling himself a super genius. When Magenta informs him they have to speed up their plans before their secret is exposed, Hito promises to create more Gammas, as he brags about taking control of the world. Suddenly, Magenta asks about Cell Max, Dr. Gero's greatest creation that got destroyed by Goku and his allies. When Hito declares that the Gammas will be enough, Magenta persists for an answer. Disappointed, Hito admits the creation of Cell Max has been finished, however, he needs more time to complete his mind control program. Out of patience, Magenta commands Hito to activate Cell Max immediately. Hito is unhinged. He says Cell Max is a far greater monster than the original Cell ever was and it'll be a disaster to unleash him on the world in his current state, as he's uncontrollable. Piccolo calls Bulma anxiously and asks for the whereabouts of Vegeta and Goku. Bulma tells him Vegeta and Goku are off on Lord Beerus' planet and she hasn't seen them in weeks. Despaired, Piccolo asks her to contact them immediately as it appears something bad is about to happen. Meanwhile, Goku and Broly train on Beerus' planet. After their training, Goku tells Vegeta to quit meditating, as the world is filled with physically powerful enemies, but Vegeta commands him to shush. He says, Jiren, an old enemy, was overwhelmingly strong, yet his power wasn't so different from theirs. Vegeta believes Jiren learned a way to relax both in his body and spirit during a battle, and he aims to learn the same technique. Suddenly, Whis appears, impressed at Vegeta and supporting his idea of mediation. When Whis suggests a spar between Goku, Vegeta, and Broly, Vegeta declines, saying Broly has no control over his powers. Later, as Goku and Vegeta spar, Broly watches them closely, with a keen focus. With everyone concentrating on the spar, Whis Beacon appears but stays unnoticed, much to Bulma's frustration. Realizing the responsibility to take on Red Ribbon Army is on him alone, Piccolo visits Dende, and asks her to help him draw out his potential, the same way he heard the Great Elder in Planet Namek did to Kuririn and Gohan. Sadly, Dende tells him that ability can only be achieved at a certain age, which she isn't up to yet. Nevertheless, she believes the same result can be achieved through the Dragon Balls, which are powerful sets of balls capable of granting anyone's wishes. Dende suggests using Shenlong and the Dragon Balls to draw out his potential. Delighted, Piccolo watches Dende upgrade Shenlong. She asks him to go ahead and find the Dragon Balls. Quickly, Piccolo calls Bulma and asks if she still has the Dragon Balls, as she's known to have collected them years ago. When she answers in the affirmative, Piccolo tells her he's coming for them, against her protests. Piccolo invokes Shenlong from the Dragon Balls. After emerging, Shenlong asks for 3 wishes. Piccolo promptly wishes for his potential to be drawn out. When the wish is granted, Piccolo declines to make any more wishes. However, Bulma begins to wish for longer eyelashes and a swelled butt. After all wishes have been granted and Shenlong vanishes, it dawns on them that they should have wished for Goku and Vegeta to be summoned to them. Hurriedly returning to the Red Ribbon Army base, Piccolo finds a meeting already ongoing, with Magenta suggesting they attack Goku or Vegeta before anyone has a chance to formulate an attack against them. When Carmine says they're too powerful, Magenta proposes they eliminate Son Gohan instead, but Carmine tells them he's a powerful being who defeated Cell while he was still a child, suspecting he's a secret leader who Piccolo works for. Magenta says he doesn't wish to draw attention until Cell Max is complete. Mischievously, he considers luring Son Gohan to the army base by abducting his daughter, Pan. When Hito goes against the plan, Magenta tells him to stay out of it. He commands his army to capture her and bring her to the base. When Piccolo interrupts and speaks out of turn, number 79 silences him. Persistent, Piccolo assures them he knows Son Gohan's daughter and can be invaluable in trying to find her. When they find him suspicious, Piccolo covers quickly and says Pan is the granddaughter of the famous Mr. Satan, thereby implying that everyone knows her. Eventually, Magenta shows his support. Piccolo, realizing this could be the right opportunity to draw Son Goku out of his home, curiously asks number 15 how they intend to abduct Pan. Number 15 predicts Pan is still in kindergarten and intends to take her while heading home with her mom. Arriving at kindergarten, number 15 discovers Pan is without her mom and considers the abduction a cinch. He pretends to be sent by Pan's mother. As he attempts to pick her up, Pan punches him in the gut, knocking him out. As Piccolo finally appears, Pan recognizes him. Asking her to play along, Piccolo tells Pan he followed a fearsome android in order to infiltrate an evil organization known as the Red Ribbon Army. There, he learned they're planning to eliminate them before they can intervene in their plans to overtake the world. Further, he learned of their plans to take her so they can lure out her dad and defeat him. When Pan sounds excited at the prospect of a fight, Piccolo warns her not to take the threat so lightly. He asks her to pretend she's been abducted and feels afraid. Nonetheless, he asks her not to worry, promising to protect her. Doubtful, Pan asks if the plan will really draw out her father, seeing how busy he's been. Piccolo promises to beat Son Gohan to a pulp if he doesn't show up to rescue his own daughter. As number 15 finally comes awake, Pan pretends to cry for help. After Pan is brought into Red Ribbon Army base, number 15 makes a video recording of her clutching a stuffed animal, pretending to be afraid. After the video, Pan tries to take a snack, but Carmine takes it out of her reach. Number 79 commands Piccolo to leave. Piccolo and number 15 arrive at Gohan's house. When number 15 doesn't get any response at the door, Piccolo directs him to the window. Astonished, number 15 asks Piccolo if he lives here, but Piccolo ignores the question. After Gohan opens his window, number 15 points a gun at him and orders him to come with them. Nonchalant, Gohan flicks the gun away and politely asks that they leave before he calls the police. Number 15 stutters, shocked and lost for words. Frustrated, number 15 shows Gohan the video of Pan, calling for help, and says they have his little girl and will hurt her if he doesn't come along. Gohan boils over. As number 15 attempts to pick up his gun, Gohan swooshes to his front in a fit of rage and creates a large destruction in his wake. Terrified, number 15 bows an apology and swears that Pan is safe. Getting into the army base, Gohan blows up the plane at the sight of his daughter and stumps into the ground, ready for battle. As he darts for his daughter, Gamma 2 attacks him and knocks him to the ground. Rising back up, Gohan examines his challenger. Magenta tells him he must beat Gamma 1 to save his daughter. Gamma 1 charges at Gohan and gets in a fierce fight, with neither looking to concede defeat. Meanwhile, Piccolo tells Pan he's glad Gohan came. Nonetheless, he admits that Gamma 1 is a really strong opponent. Anxious, Pan wonders if her father can win the fight, which Piccolo frankly doubts. He only hopes Gohan awakens and fully regains his knack for battle. Gohan asks Gamma 1 who he is, skeptical of ever meeting him. Confidently, Gamma 1 calls himself a superhero. After another round of fight, with Gamma 1 coming out on top, Gohan notices he's an android and asks why he captured his daughter. Gamma 1 says it wasn't his idea, as he merely carries out orders for the sake of justice, adding that his orders are to wipe out evil secret societies to which Gohan and his friends are alleged to belong in. Gohan looks confused. After another lengthy fight, Piccolo learns that Gamma 1 studies Gohan's powers and movements as they fight, realizing Gohan is at a disadvantage. Just then, Gamma 1 begins to knock Gohan around. When it seems Gohan is about to lose, Piccolo asks Pan to pretend like she's being hurt, triggering a fiery power within Gohan. Mad with anger, Gohan knocks Gamma 1 around. He wonders how he has deemed an evil secret society when they're the obviously bad people who took his child. Confused, Gamma 1 wonders if it's really true that they're the bad people. In a desperate bid to win the fight, Hito commands Gamma 2 to get involved, but Piccolo intervenes just in time and asks him to stay out. Ready for a fight, Gamma 2 assaults Piccolo, but Piccolo easily knocks him away. Gohan, who'd failed to notice Piccolo earlier, wonders how he got here. Piccolo promises to explain later and tells him to focus on his fight. Gamma 2 ponders how Piccolo improved in a short time and asks if Piccolo was hiding his abilities earlier, but Piccolo refuses to say. With their fight still raging on, Gohan considers if the Gammas ever get tired. Gamma 1 says he's an android and can fight at full power until his energy runs out. Curious, Gohan asks how much energy he has left. Gamma 1 says 82%. Gohan is shocked. While Piccolo and Gamma 1 beat each other, Piccolo tells him he doesn't see him as a bad person, seeing he simply follows the orders of Hito. Piccolo asks him if he's ever considered that the information they received from Magenta could be false. Trying to silence him, Gamma 2 assaults Piccolo relentlessly. After a devastating combo from Gamma 2, Piccolo manifests in a new form as Orange Piccolo. With one hefty punch, Piccolo knocks out Gamma 2. Realizing both Gammas are down, Magenta commands his army to fire at Piccolo, but it's of no effect. As Magenta and Carmine begin to run away, Pan sweeps in and knocks off Carmine. Just then, it dawns on Gamma 2 that Magenta is the real enemy. Piccolo asks Gohan to stop fighting, as everything seems like a mere misunderstanding. As Magenta tries to free Cell Max, Hito intervenes, asking him to stop, but Magenta stays determined. He accuses Hito of being responsible for their loss by giving the Gammas false ideas about being superheroes. After shooting Hito, Magenta activates Cell Max. However, before freeing Cell Max, Hito gets back up and reminds him his skin has been modified to withstand shock. Magenta looks resigned. Suddenly though, he dons a battle outfit and challenges Hito to a fight. While approaching Hito, Hito's cyborg bee flies in and stings him, sending Magenta into a frenzy. While Hito celebrates his victory, Magenta frees Cell Max. Bulma turns up with Goten, Trunks, Android 18, and Krillin for support. Piccolo is surprised to see Goten and Trunks have grown big since he last saw them. Gohan says Saiyan stay small for a long time, then suddenly hit a growth sprout. As they leave, Gohan tries to find his glasses, saying he can't see too well. Piccolo, teasing, considers if he sees better when he transforms during a fight. At the same time, Hito tries frantically to deactivate Cell Max, but nothing works. Eventually, Cell Max breaks free, bringing destruction and fury in his wake. Hito trembles at the sight of him, horrified. Finally escaping, Hito alerts the Gammas that Cell Max has been freed. While contemplating their next action, Cell Max soars into the sky in ferocious power. When the dust settles, Gohan asks Bulma to protect Pan, and together they attack Cell Max. After a futile effort, Gamma 1 tells them all to aim for the top of Cell Max's head, as it's his only weakness, claiming Hito had expected Cell Max would be released eventually and had given him a weakness as a precaution. He adds that damaging Cell Max's weakness will trigger an explosion that will wipe out every cell in his body. Together, they aim for Cell Max's head, determined and relentless. When Gohan finally blasts Cell Max's head, the impact proves impotent, yet subsequently, it fires up Cell Max into a worse transformation. As fiery lights shoot around from Cell Max, Pan scampers to safety and unexpectedly begins to fly. Goten and Trunks try to fuse into Gotenks, but their fusion technique doesn't come off right. While attacking Cell Max, however, they successfully crack Cell Max's skull. Gamma 2 warns them to keep their distance for his next plan. As Gamma 1 realizes what it is, he warns him to stop. Gamma 2 assures him his mind has been made up and tells him to save Hito, confirming he's still alive. Charging into the sky, he prepares for his greatest attack. As everyone attacks together, Kuririn shows up for support, giving Gamma 2 the opening he needs to attack Cell Max. After the onslaught, Cell Max is discovered to have lost an arm, but Gamma 2 doesn't survive. Incensed, Cell Max tries to stamp on Gamma 2, but Piccolo stops him. After Gamma 1 rescues Gamma 2, Kuririn tells Piccolo to grow into a giant. After Piccolo does, he admits to Gohan that his strength is the same, then he offers him his senzu, telling him he has a plan. When Gohan eats the senzu, he unleashes a new power. After temporarily putting Cell Max away, Piccolo tells Gohan to take his chance and pierce his charged-up power through Cell Max's head. Piccolo warns him not to hold back. Cell Max re-emerges and assaults Piccolo. After watching Piccolo get destroyed, Gohan explodes into a fearsome power. As Piccolo desperately clings to Cell Max, restraining him, Gohan charges a great cannon and fires it at Cell Max's head, eliminating him. After his passing, Cell Max blows up. When the dust settles, Pan reunites with her father, excited. Piccolo confesses to Gohan that they could not have won the battle without the Gammas. When Piccolo asks Gohan how he learned the technique that eliminated Cell Max, Gohan admits he's been secretly practicing. After Gamma 2 disintegrates, Gamma 1 tells Piccolo that he used all his energy in one burst. Comforting them, Piccolo calls Gamma 2 a superhero. Hito solemnly takes responsibility for the disaster, since he created Cell Max. He admits to knowing what was really going on, however, he wanted Magenta's research funds. When Bulma asks what he intends to do next, Hito repentantly says he'll surrender himself to the police, alongside Gamma 1, though Piccolo discourages the idea. Promptly, Hito asks that he be allowed to work at Capsule Corporation, but Krillin and Kuririn are against the idea. Nonetheless, Bulma decides to take him in to help with her cosmetics, adding that she doesn't wish to have him plot any more evil schemes. Pan enthusiastically calls Piccolo's attention, and mustering up her courage begins to fly, to everyone's delight.